It's time for Let's Chat with Russtek, a podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs just like you. When starting out, entrepreneurs often feel they need to go it alone, and I'm here to tell you that's just not the case. Entrepreneurs have a lot of questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Nick Russell, and this is Let's Chat with Russtek. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Russtek. My name is Nick Russell, and I want to keep the conversation going on how we could use frameworks to better serve our audience. And it was funny. So when I left the beer store back in 2016, that was in October. So between October, November, December, and the first couple of months of 2017, that's when I really kind of dove deep into learning everything that I possibly could, because I knew I wanted something a lot bigger than just being a corporate employee or being somebody that had to work for somebody else. And it's kind of cool. So when I was with the beer store, I always went that extra mile for my customers, no matter what it was. And one of the stories that kind of always comes back to me is I worked at a store in a little town called Tecumseh in Ontario. That was one of my first stores. And that's kind of where I really had my love of beer. I found my love of beer when I started working there. I would call it my homework, quote unquote. And I would just buy a different 6-pack, or they didn't have tall boys back then, but it was like 750 cans or 950 cans. But usually I'd buy a 6-pack of something that just came out, and I would try all these different beers. So getting to know the different beers, the different breweries, how each beer tasted, I would always have conversations with my customers, and I would help them choose a beer that fit what they want. Now, I remained as brewer neutral as possible, but I slowly became the quote unquote beer guy. So even if I wasn't working up front at the tills, I was the guy everybody went to bring me back up to the front if I was in the back loading the cooler or something like that. If a customer needed help with a beer, that was me. I always went that extra mile to help them out. And that's exactly what I do now. I did that when I was learning, and I do that for my clients now, because that's something that I love. And as I was learning back in late to 2016, early 2017, before we started Russtek, I wanted to serve, like I served my customers, I wanted to serve an audience. I wanted to serve my clients and whatever that venture was. Now, into 2017, I started realizing really quick what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to serve. So slowly, I started to become that expert, right? Now, back then, I wasn't an expert, but I went to as many networking events as I could. I went to as many functions as I could. I wanted to hear people speak, wanted to hear people teach and see how they did it. And then what I did was I took everything that I learned from Russell and all of the Dotcom Secrets, Expert Secrets, well, not quite Traffic Secrets back then, but I wanted to learn how he taught, how these people were taught, and then I could use all of that, craft something of my own, and then teach. And one of the really cool things, and I can't wait to talk about this in a couple of weeks, you'll hear this on the podcast in a couple of weeks, I'm going to talk about the Epiphany Bridge story. So this is one of the things that Russell teaches in Expert Secrets. And when he hires somebody to coach, or when somebody hires him for Russell to coach them, he charges $10,000. But everything that's in Expert Secrets is what he uses to teach his clients. And he charges $10,000 for that. The cool thing is we get that book for free. Just a matter of taking the knowledge that we've learned and then turning that into something that we could actually use. So, for example, for me, I'm using that in building out my course right now. Now, that's something that's going to be launching in the not too distant future. But these are things that I'm using as I start to grow my business and continue to learn. And you'll see the structure here in the podcast. So I start taking a story, how I've learned what it is that I want to do, and then provide a little bit of value. And then I'll give you an offer. Like I'm going to give you that book of expert secrets for free. So that hook story offer turns into like the perfect webinar framework. If you've ever seen me do that, that's where I tell a story. I provide 3 big secrets, and then I go to an offer stack. So if you saw me teach or talk at a couple of different events, or saw me talk at the Zuckerberg School Gala, those are scripts that I used when I talked to the audience there, provided as much value as I could to the audience. And then I over delivered when I had my offer for them. Now, you don't always have to have an offer. So the next big stage that we're going to be focusing on in 2022 is our YouTube channel. Now, right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, all we have are these podcasts because I record them in Zoom, and it's a video that I rip into the audio file for the podcast. But since I'm recording them, I might as well not waste the video and have that up on YouTube. But we're working on developing a YouTube channel as a way to really get the message out there and really start providing value, more value to our audience. And we're going to get into that a little bit more down the line. So this wasn't a big podcast. This was kind of a lead-in podcast, and you're going to see that in the next couple of weeks. But hopefully you did enjoy this podcast. And like I said, Expert Secrets is something Russell uses to teach his clients on how to tell stories, how to get your message out there, and how to become the expert in whatever field you're in. So that's $10,000 that he charges. The book is free. So you'll see the outro after this little bit here of the podcast, and it'll show you how to get that free book. So hopefully you enjoyed today's podcast, and I can't wait to chat with you again next week. Hold up one quick second. I have one thing to offer you, and it's absolutely free. So just give me about 20, 30 seconds of your time, and I promise you this is going to be worth it. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast, my blogs for the last few weeks, we've been talking about Expert Secrets, a book by Russell Brunson. Now, this is a book you can get absolutely free. All you have to do is click the link to the description of this podcast or YouTube video if you're watching it. But this is not just any book. This is a book that helps you find your message, no matter what your industry is, and use that to serve your audience and become an expert in whatever field it is you're in. Now, this book is what Russell uses, everything from cover to cover. He uses this to coach his clients, and to be one of his clients, he charges $10,000. So you could either spend $10,000 to learn from the best marketer in the world, or you can click the link in the description of this podcast / YouTube video and get your copy of Expert Secrets absolutely free. I've read this book about 4 or 5 times at least, and I use it as a textbook now because it is that good. So again, if you want Expert Secrets for free, something Russell Brunson uses and charges his clients $10,000 for, you can get that absolutely free by clicking the link in the description of this video or heading to rustekmedia.com/links and click on the Expert Secrets button.